But the thing is, you've gotten so used to working for your money and hard and hustling and discipline and push, that stepping back from that might be much less money, but you can't take it because it changed. You have to, that's what I mean when it seems too easy. Oh, I don't have to hustle for this, really? How does it work? It's got to be tougher. The architecture, it's called the architecture of ease because that's what we're all aiming for, ease and grace and more aliveness. And also because it's very counterintuitive what culture has actually taught us. Because there's 3 major patterns that culture has taught us how success works and how to lead yourselves. And the first one is love for performance. As in, if it's not tough and hard and something to tackle and very, that's not worth anything. And I think that's the toughest of all the patterns, the imprints. As in, how can I receive something that I didn't do anything for? It's almost like winning the lottery. Why do lottery winners lose all the money within a short time? Because they don't know how to accept it. They don't have the energetic containers to actually hold that amount of money. And any kind of money issue in your lives is, if it's not there, there's 2 possibilities. Either the way you want it seems too easy for you, or you have receiving it but you can't hold it. Mostly both. So when you have money issues, any kind of poverty thing is a lack of responsibility, always. The energetic containers, I think that's easy to understand. An energetic container means that you have the capability, the inner capability to actually hold resources. And that means you have a physical sensation of being abundant. You have a somatic marker, and the amount of money that is in your bank account in the last 6 months on average, just take the average, that's what you are used to holding. And then sometimes you decide, you know what, I've done this work in my life so far to receive money, and now I would like to change that. For example, I'll give you 2 very opposing patterns here. For example, so far I've gotten money from my parents, and now I want to do it myself. That means if you're getting money from somebody who's a caretaker, and let's say it's 10 apples per month, you're used to having 10 apples per month in your bank account, and your energetic container is kind of stretched to that amount of money to have. Now you decide, I want to do it myself. Totally different thing. Often in an age group 20 years older than you, people have the same issue with having a corporate career and being employed, having a fixed amount of money coming in every month without them having to work for it, as in negotiating it. And then they start to become self-employed, and suddenly they understand, oh, my bank account has been stretched to this amount, but not if I have to actually kind of work from my soul, from my deep purpose. I was working for somebody else's purpose, which was very aligned, but I was not the one holding the torch. And it's the same pattern. It's just 20 years later. So there's parents to corporate, and then there's corporate to self-employed, or it can be parents to self-employed. It doesn't matter. It's still the same pattern, that you are changing the way how you receive the money. And that can create a significant drop in your money flow, because you realized, I want to do something else. This is not aligned anymore. I don't want to be dependent on parents or, I don't know, a corporation, or this particular revenue model that I have done self-employed. I want to change. I want to have more ease and grace, the architecture of ease. So that's the one thing. And what I mean with when it seems too easy, just imagine you have a business model for yourself where, for example, you are employed, or you're self-employed and you make your money with trading time for dollars, which means you give your time and you get money back. 2 examples, I think possibly one of them will work for you. you're still getting money either from the state because you have a kid, or you get something from your parents, or you get I don't know, some kind of insurance. So there's also a little bit of let's say support that comes in every month without you having to think about it. Right. And then you decide, I want to shift back into more ease. So it's almost like when you got the money from the parents and or from any kind of caregivers, or you got a widow's pension, which is the same basically, just on the other end of life most of the times. And then you step into, I don't know, another form of you actually trading your time for getting money into the bank. Doesn't matter if you're self-employed or somebody else is employing you. And then you realize after a while, you know what? That's too tough. I want to have passive income. But the thing is, you've gotten so used to working for your money and hard and hustling and discipline and push that stepping back from that might be much less money, but you can't take it because it changed. You have to, that's what I mean when it seems too easy. Oh, I don't have to hustle for this, really? How does it work? It's got to be tougher. So stretch your energetic containers this way if you want to have it easier. That was at the beginning, a pretty example for love for performance as being the most, first and foremost, hindering cultural pattern that we all get imprinted with that works against us having a life of ease and grace. The second one, I have to open my notes now. The second one is that we believe the value of autonomy is bigger than the value of connection. The value of autonomy is basically this imprint. I think I have said that repeatedly. You've heard that from me. We're so used to having to do things alone. And we do this with the kids. You might even remember having been told, oh, wow, he can already tie his shoelaces all by himself. Oh, wow, she can already go to bed all by herself. Oh, wow, he can already go to school all by himself. Because we have these tiny entities of co-parenting, if you're not a sole parent. And then anything the kid can do by themselves is a relief for the parents because it takes a village to raise a child, and we're not living in villages anymore. We're having these ideally two people who do that. And sometimes there's a grandmother, and sometimes there's some kind of sibling, and sometimes there's enough money that you have a nanny. But still, that's not enough people. That's why it's so important for parents that kids can do stuff very quickly by themselves. And what does that imprint in us? Doing it on your own. Everything, all the time. No dependencies, especially no codependencies. We just try to get independent freedom. That's the thing. Freedom of choice, freedom of resources, sovereignty. No, you feel that, how strong that is in us, and how we believe we have to get there. And yes, we have to get there, but then again, we have to get back into connection. And that's where our culture is currently tapping. And COVID has totally fostered that. And AI is totally fostering that. I don't even need a team anymore. No humans. I can do it with the machines. Brilliant. But then who do you sit with all day long? Just machines, nobody else? Not so good for our social emotional well-being. So that's the second pattern. And I've mapped with my framework, I don't know, myriads of CEOs and owners and C-suite managers and leaders and politicians and over years. And there was one particular pattern that was the strongest pattern in those who could navigate crisis. If you have the value of autonomy and freedom, you are much less suitable to navigate crisis than if you have the value of connection. So if you feel connection, the first thing, there's a crisis, the first thing is I pick up my phone and I call the other person who is going to be occupied with this issue. Before you think like, okay, how am I going to approach this by myself? I'm trying to find a solution. I need to be prepared for this phone call. And also I need to feel myself. How am I with this? La, 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 la. Instead of having the instinct to pick up the phone, and people are very integrated, do both at the same time. They're so good in complexity that they check in with themselves while they dial the number. They come sorted into the phone call because simultaneity is possible. That's a really tough thing to reach. So it's really cool to shortly check in, but the next thing is you have to pick up the phone, because 1 + 1 is 11. And you will never have the same brilliant idea than you have with somebody who is on eye level. Eye level is important, because if you feel the frequency, the energy of the other person, the mindset is narrow. Of course, you don't call them. That's not going to create emergence. You call that person, but you feel like, who am I going to call if I have this problem, because I want emergence? There's actually very few people that I call, although my instinct is calling. I can think of 3 who I would call to really brainstorm, body storm in a moment of crisis. But I know that that's much better than sorting it by myself. And sometimes you don't reach them. Sometimes you feel like, oh, we just had a debate that's difficult. And the funny thing is, it doesn't matter how old they are. One of these people is in their 20s. So, and one of them is in their 60s. It doesn't matter what social emotional stage you're in case you consider that. It's just that, are these people capable of emergence and of resonating deeply and of kind of bouncing the back? That's a growth mindset. That's the only thing you need. Where fear is not overwriting any kind of possibility to reach for a bigger perspective. And if that's possible, if you find that in yourself, that's fantastic. And if you find that in somebody else, and if you have, that's a task for you. Make a list of the 3 people you call. Just think of the top of your head. Who can I call with who is fantastically suited for emergence? Those are the most important people in your life for your growth, because emergence is only possible if there is love in the place. And that kind of love is the real love. If you're in love with somebody you can't emerge with, that's going to end. I promise you. So if you're in love with somebody, you want to try that. Can this person change perspective? Can this person body storm with me? If you're in love, you can even do this physically. You know what I'm talking about. You can just go into a problem and you can take your bodies with you. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a sexual thing, but it can be a sexual thing if that works for you, if it works for both. But usually that second pattern that's so limiting, that's so hindering us, is basically the if we still fight for our autonomy and our sovereignty, we will not be able to go into we will not be able to make our lives easier. And at the same time, you cannot skip that. So, and it also comes in phases. You guys are on the brink of going into your sovereignty. And what I'm telling you, and it's important, it's impossible to skip that. But at the same time, if you're somebody who is really enjoying company of others, don't give it up in the meantime. Try to hold both at the same time. Try to understand when is a good moment to be in sovereignty, because the discernment that this person is not suitable for emergence. That's all you need. That's why I said pick the 3. Maybe it's just 2, maybe it's just 1, maybe it's 7. Usually 2 to 3 are possible for everybody. But it's not smart to reach for somebody who's not going to help you uplift and who's not going to help you get to something that's bigger than what you currently experiencing in yourself, by yourself, basically. Third pattern is mastery. Mastery is the killer of ease, because mastery means I have to constantly self-optimize. I have to constantly tolerate more, as in carry more. Give that to me, let me do this. You know that thought? As in somebody is struggling with something, it's like, oh, come on, let me take this. That's mastery. And that means you do not trust the other person to do a good job, and you think you're better. And that's going to let you you're gonna get lost in looking after everything and everybody at all times. You're going to be the proper, you have the drama triangle, the victim, the persecutor, and the savior. That's the savior stance. It's very glorified in our culture, and it kills ease because it means you constantly have to do more. You have to save everything all the time. You want to save the planet. And you think you can do it. It's the overestimation of ourselves. We constantly overestimate. So we go into systems and think because we enter, we're going to change everything. No. That's a stage 6 stance. That's Jesus. Really hard to hold as a state for anybody, not just people in their 20s, anybody. So the only thing you can do is you can become very aware of where do I want to constantly save things? Where do I think I'm better? And don't make yourself small while you do that, because at the same time, you have to have a look at the patterns where you think, oh, there, I make myself smaller. Because you will do both. It's literally the same mental movement. I overestimate myself here and I underestimate myself there. So task number 2, make a list where you constantly overstretch, where you feel like I'm overpromising to myself all the time. And in that list, you will find the golden nuggets, because in everything you think you can do is a truth. You will be able to do that, but only if you integrate all your shadow. Because stage 6 means physical integration. And so what you can do is understand, oh, I want to get there, and that's a prophecy that I made for myself. I will be able to do that. It's humanly possible. But right now, I have too much doubt and too many blind spots. I have not lived enough yet. I have not experienced the opposite perspective. And the opposite perspective will be on your list of where do I underestimate myself. All the things that you feel like, I should have. I didn't. I fucked that part up. That's where you make yourself smaller. And what you can do is you can bring these two together. Maybe you find on these lists 2 things that are like, that's actually the same, but, see if you can draw some lines. And then every time you make yourself smaller, don't believe that voice. That's one part of you that's also true. But it's not the one that's going to win. It's the one that you don't want to shed. It's not the one you want to kill. It's not the one you want to cut. It's not the one you want to suppress. It's the one you want to kind of cradle and say, I hear you. You're scared. Come here. I've got this. You want a big brother or a big sister, that part. You want to parent that part. Like a little kid that's standing there and says, I can't do it. Help me. You wouldn't just tell a little kid, go away. You get on my nerves. That's not how you treat yourself. So you see, overestimation, underestimation. And what's the new kind of mastery? Because as I said, tolerating other people's mistakes and your own shortcomings is not mastery. That's what we think mastery is. Constantly pushing ourselves to self-optimize and taking stuff off others because they're not good enough. That's not mastery. That's going to make you overwork and burn out. But the new way of mastery is actually being able to discern what is my purpose and what is not. Am I defining myself because I constantly save everybody? It's not your purpose. That means you don't believe people can do it themselves without you. Biggest effing trap of all of them. If you constantly think yourself smarter than everybody else, it's the only thing you feel is your ego. And the problem is, all of you guys are super smart. And that's the tricky piece. If you're cognitively very smart, but you cannot embody kindness and empathy yet, because we've all been imprinted and trained to be super smart and overestimate. Like, you have to constantly tell people I'm great at everything, because this is like in the United States, if you show vulnerability in a startup, you're killed. That's it. You don't do that. You constantly tell people I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. Here, it's a little bit easier, but here in Central Europe, if you fail and when you go bankrupt, then you're killed with your credibility. Bank rating, any kind of social status, done. While it's in the States, That's okay. So see how twisted the whole thing is? So the new mastery is understanding what is my purpose, and you do that anyways. If you get applause or money, it doesn't matter. You do it. And you don't do it to show others that you're good. And you don't do it to help others. You just do it for yourself. You help yourself and you show yourself. And whatever it is that wants to come through you, you do it for yourself first, because you can't help people with their issues. For example, let's say you want to help somebody with their company becoming more sustainable. And you yourself live in a shitty apartment without any decoration or any, it's not beautiful. You don't like it. It's tiny. It's empty. It's cold. How the heck are you supposed to step into a space of abundance with integrity? It's not happening. So what you do first is you get your own place and you make it beautiful and you step up in abundance, and then you approach people. And you don't teach people how to create a team if you don't have a team. Where's integrity in that? And you don't teach people how to make a lot of money if you don't have a lot of money. Where's the integrity? Do it for yourself. That's the mastery. Apply it to yourselves first. Okay?